See that if you zoom down to them, can you do an extra movement, please? Slides, sir. Well, if you zoom your eyes into, you see that the people are not the same, they are different. Okay. So, we are not at the same line when we are exposed to stress. These people are athletes that are all at the same level, that have won many matches, they are all trained up, they are all capable of withstanding stress. We are not like that. Next slide, please. Some of us are in that line with more load than others. You can see people, some have no backpacks. It's reaching us is more severe than other people. Not because it is of anything, but because of our constitution. So we are not, the response is different. If, let's say, they increase the school fees by 10,000 naira, for some it will be a calamity. Some shawarma is more than 10,000, but for some it's going to be a big blow. So with the pad we have, it buttresses some of the problems we're exposed to, but the pad is not the same. The Ikara is not the same. So some people, they have more stress. They absorb more, it's more stressful than the other people. But depending on your constitution, we are able to interact with the stress, and sometimes we are able to reduce the amount of stress reaching us. Sometimes we fail to reach. I'm not just talking about the stress. My interest is making us see how we can come to terms with them. And when the body is exposed to stress, there are 4 possible things it does. Number 1 is what is written there as direct coping. You know that you are waking up too late to meet your class. What do you do if you are reasonable? You look for an alarm clock. You ask your friend to wake you up. That's sort of many things you do, and you try to cope with it. We do that a lot in Nigeria. You don't have water, you dig your borehole. For those of you who can afford it, you buy your own things. Try to notice what the problem is and respond to it. Other people who cannot do are just being held, doing nothing about it. And those who are able to respond and solve their problems reduce their level of stress. Those who cannot keep the level of stress. Now, there's also what is called defense coping, which we will not go into details. But the third one, which I think would spend a little more time, is burnout. So we'll talk about burnout because I think we've gone like half of our time already. So in burnout, and I'm taking time to talk about this because that's probably usually the first major issues people who are building up stress that are not resolved have. And I'm hoping that we look at ourselves and see whether the amount of stress that the country is dishing out on us has reached that level. So when you notice that your usual packed work days, the demanding pace, the time pressures, and emotional intensity you are exposed to, when you notice that you are now responding to it with exhaustion, you feel more tired than you ought to. There's nothing wrong with you are eating the same times and the same quality of food, so there's nothing physically happening to you, but you feel a little more exhausted at the end of the day. You feel drained more than you ought to. At the end of the day, your sense of personal accomplishment is not there. You've put in the same amount of work, but you go home, you don't feel like you've achieved much. The chances are you are getting burnt out. Burnt out is not a mental illness, but it's usually enough to drain you. And you remember we had said that you need some of the job we do are mental in nature. Mental work. It's not just manual work. So when you are having such things, the quality of, the level of your productivity is going to drop remarkably. And if you wait for it to drop, know that you are, how do I put it? I think the body is putting you on notice that it's time to do something about it. Sometimes sleep becomes a problem. You sleep for 2-3 hours, you wake up, you are not satisfied anymore. If something happens, maybe there's a loud noise outside, you become more frightened than you ought to be. Your body is giving you notice that it's time to do a little. The WHO tells us that there are 3 pillars of health. I'm sure we all remember that. One of it is mental health. So by the time you're having all these symptoms, it shows you that you are no longer having mental health. Because if you check in yourself, you'd notice that you may not be as happy as you were. You are not sleeping. You are not concentrating. You are making more mistakes. Those are the telltale signs. And what the body is asking you to do is get help. Okay. Some you are like C, and it doesn't really matter. There's nothing you can do when I told you that our constitution is created by us. By the time we are 10, 11, we are fixed how we are going to be. So those people who are in C are a bit less able to take stress. And all the stresses that we are getting get into the bottle. And can we move a little step? Just one more movement. And if it reaches an extra stage, any extra stray, we may get cracked up. Let's take it as a last straw. I'm sure we all remember what the last straw is. Things are accumulating small by small by small. And a little straw happens and we decompensate. That's the sort of thing I'm trying to make us understand. So well before this opportunity, the body has signaled you. You are getting exhausted, you are tired, you are not feeling as you ought to. You know there's problem. And like I said earlier, it's our responsibility to take care of our mental health. The university has put a medical center somewhere for us to go. It's you to decide to go there. Our provost has made a health line, which I'm going to share the number with us. It's your responsibility to call that line. But know for certain that if you delay in seeking help, if you delay, some extra things can happen like the crack of the bottle. And if we move the slides a little, we'll see some of the things we can do on our own to Are you overworking yourself? Are you staying out late trying to make ends meet? These are things you are supposed to pick up. Are you physically ill? Because sometimes being physically ill makes you more drained. Are you socially ill or broke like some of us are? Those are also warning signs. Now, do we have, like I said, if we can identify the root cause of our stress, it's our responsibility to try and remedy them. There are people who have not learned how to solve problems. There are easy skills to solve problems, like get to your problem. Sometimes the problems are not even big. It's a decision to make. Should you send your children to boarding school? Should they go from the house? If you sit down and do the pros and cons of each of them, you might see which one you have more advantage. Those are easy ways of solving problems. Give it a thought. See if you can solve the problem on your own. If you can, you are lucky. If not, you may need help. Build social relationship. As we grow older, in professions, you are meeting people less. Many people are spending all the time in social media these days. It's not the same thing. Some people can spend media and are not having enough contact with other people. It's important to keep contact with people, relations, parents. It's our responsibility to keep our social well-being. So let's locate them, talk with them, their problems, learn about them. People around who can phone, will give the numbers, they can help address your stress level. And one of the most important things is seek professional help. Has driven you to that extreme that if you don't get help, things may happen. Don't wait. If you feel so exhausted, you are not getting the satisfaction you used to get from life, from your work, your dedication, you're not getting as much. Maybe it's time to attempt to help yourself. If it fails, get people to help you. They are trained to help, so make sure you get them to help. Okay, I think the last thing is just to share the numbers with you. Luckily, our provost set them up some 2-3 years ago, and we used to have them published everywhere. The lines are still functional. Try not to call now, please. But if you call later on in the day, there are people who man those lines. It's not just for yourself, it's for other friends of yours who are related in the university. And it will be good. Luckily, we have the Vice Chancellor represented, that if the VC can talk with our provost and the medical center, we're in league, sort of. This can be extended to the other members of the university community. It's not just for the students. Many people in the last 2 years or so have called and have gotten help. So please, let's note the numbers and also call and hope we can get help. I think we should just look at the last slide, and I know I would have spent my 15 to 20 minutes talking. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think he deserves more applause. Please put your hands together for him. Memento. We do a presentation to the keynote speaker and also to the presenters during the pre-conference session. First is Professor Uido Rudolfia. Secondly, Professor Directorate of Results, Professor Angela Yoita. And lastly, Professor Martins Mary Meko. So please, at this point, may I invite the Provost to take over this segment. Please put your hands together for him.
May I kindly request the chairman to kindly do this for us? Chairman, please. The keynote speaker. Yeah, there, Prof. Odofia. We could have had it better presented than what he just did here. This was erudite, and I know that you are carefully selected. And having done this, you deserve this memento to be presented to you. I so present to you. Congratulations. Thank you very much, the chairman of the occasion. Can we invite Professor Angela Yoita, please?
VCMA, please can you help us present this?
This memento is presented to you, Professor Angela Oyoita, Professor of Community Medicine, as the pre-conference speaker on the occasion of the College Week and Awards ceremony. Congratulations, Prof.
Can
Professor Martin Madu Merumeku, Professor of Pediatrics. This memento is presented to you as the pre-conference speaker on the occasion of the College Week and Awards ceremony. Congratulations, sir.
We are going quickly into the next presentation. Before then, we'll take a brief citation of the sub-theme one speaker, Professor Nelson Dubisi Orie. And this is going to be handled by the Deputy Provost, Professor Sunday Bisson. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you very much. The chairman of this occasion, the Vice Chancellor, and the Provost, permit me to stand on the already existing protocol. I wish I could ask Professor Nelson Orie to stand up, but he is not here, and he'll be presenting virtual in the spirit. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. He's waving, so we acknowledge that. Professor Nelson Ndubisi Orie is a professorial research fellow at the University College London, UCL, in the Division of Medicine. He completed his PhD in physiology at the University of Benin in 1993, specializing in cardiovascular physiology. He's an alumnus of UNICAL, having graduated here with a BSc Honors, Second Class Upper Division, in the Department of Physiology in 1985. After his national service, he returned to the University of Calabar as an assistant, as a graduate assistant, and then as an assistant lecturer until 1996, when he was appointed a senior lecturer at Moi University in Kenya at the Faculty of Health Sciences. While in Kenya, he received the prestigious Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship to enhance his postdoctoral research experience at the University Hospital of Ruhr University in Bochum, Germany. After the fellowship was first hosted by the Qatar Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Hospital, Doha, and then later moved to the anti-doping lab in Qatar. Under the program, he successfully supervised many non-resident University College London PhD students, headed headed the vascular testing platform at the anti-doping lab in Qatar. He designed the only 2 taught courses for the PhD program in physiology in the University of Calabar. I can make bold to say that that program is what makes the PhD physiology in University of Calabar very special and well sought out. He has been delivering and assessing those courses since the inception of the courses, and currently he is a visiting professor at this prestigious university, the University of Calabar. He is a from broad.
Very much. Thank you very much, Bison. Please, can I have a confirmation that you can hear me well over there? You can hear me well over there. Can I have a confirmation that you can hear me very well? I don't want the network to be an issue.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, can they hear me in Calabar? Yeah, either I can see you. But can they hear me in Calabar?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So can I share my slides then? Thank you very much for the introduction. I will just get on with the presentation because of time. So I'll share the slides and we'll talk from there. Okay. Okay. And I hope my slides are also clear for you to see. Thank you again, Professor Bisson, an alumnus. I'm really, really excited to be part of what's happening. Okay. I remember also being invited to give a talk then in physiology by the same, now Deputy Provost, who is very, very scientifically minded. So I am very impressed by all the developments that are going on there and all the support that the scientific side is getting from the leadership of the college as well as the leadership of the university. So I was asked to talk about the heart-mind connection with respect to the issue of mental health and the theme that has been well explained by the previous speaker. So I thought to start that I should remind us that global events, as well as the local situations, which were well highlighted in the previous talk, often affect our mental health. Okay, so I want to recall, if you want to remember, that we had this our brains that will impact our mental states. In Nigeria, I try to look around, and because I don't want to just pick up whatever they have on the social media all over the place. There was a study that was published there by Adipe et al. I think he went to one of the centers, Lagos being one place where you could say yes, all right, compared to the rest of the country, and which was similar to what we were seeing outside the country. Okay, and they reported about 28% of them were depressed, and 27% also had anxiety. These were established clinically to have depression as well as anxiety at that level. So not too far away from what was happening in the rest of the world, but looking at where they started, the level at which the comparisons were made, you probably would say that the impact wasn't as much in Lagos Center as compared to the rest of the world. But there was an impact on our mental health. Something I think that occupied us more as I build up to what I want to say exactly in this talk, okay? Something that seemed to occupy the Africans more was the issue of survival, economic survival. And the previous speaker made that point, explained it even much more clearly. Okay, but I think it was important to see this as a point for me, transiting from COVID, as it were, which many people, I think, in Nigeria didn't take as seriously as those of us who were in the West or in the other parts of the world, okay? Because I think largely, not for the theories or, that people were pushing all over the place, but because of this survival to feed. Okay, how could you be locked down when you don't have the money, when you depended on what you get each day to feed? So that was the point. And this commentary by Bloomberg was captured it for me, where COVID was threatening starvation or causing starvation in Africa. That was a threat. And we all remember this picture for some of us who saw it in Uganda, where that was a police military that was dealing with hawkers. And why were they hawking under those conditions? To feed. So economics was more important, I think, to the Africans and including Nigerians than the virus as it was spreading. Okay, so economic struggles and mental health are definitely very big, and the previous speaker made that point. It's a big story, okay? We experience it here in University College, even of students coming from all over the world. So the economic struggle has a very big impact on mental health. There's no doubt about it, and that's important to be a focus for this college week. Very impressed by that. And as you can see here, it has to do with your finances, okay? You can feel very sad the way you feel depressed. And this picture they have in the heart here, broken, which will tend to suggest there is a very important link between such struggles and the way the heart works. I'll develop that a bit more. And I was also hearing a lot of the issue of burning out, which was emphasized in the previous talk. Very important there. Okay, here, this picture, I had it, describing the middle class being particularly burnt out, under such economic stressful conditions, okay? You're not getting enough, the salary is not sufficient, and all those things that we know people are striking. So that is an issue, okay? And Nigerians started talking as well. Economic hardship and its impact on mental health in Nigeria. I got it. Okay, in my search, I saw this title. I thought it was good to push it out there to say that that is being recognized. That is being recognized, definitely. And I think, even the Business Day in their report showed that more worries as economic hardship worsens mental health crisis. That again was the Nigerian situation. And as I search further, even in Ghana, it's an issue. That is a report from Ghana where economic hardship was increasing mental health problems. So it's all over the world. Here in the UK, this is a queue for the food bank. People are queuing up to go and get some food. Okay, people are having debt crisis because of the cost of living crisis. Again, the economy, and 75% of people you see lining up there or queuing up there have impact or say their mental health is affected by the situation. So it's global, and it's particularly, like the previous speaker said, a big issue in Nigeria, a growing issue. I think the statistics is what will tell us the story with time. Okay, I hope we can gather that statistics to be able to make even a stronger point than is being made so far. Then the World Mental Day was celebrated on the 10th of October. I saw a lot of things pushed around, okay, and I followed it well. And there was a cartoon in one of the publications that touched me a bit. You can see this guy carry, he's carrying all the loads of what you call the economic stress there, finance, all that, right? That was weighing heavily on him, and he had gone to see the doctor, and the doctor checked him out, and not much was wrong with him. And the doctor said he was going to give him prescriptions for just depression. And he asked the question, what about recession? So what about the economics? Okay, how do we come out? I thought that captured the situation as it is. And so we'll start to look at how is that impacting us? How is that impacting the heart? First of all, the brain can process and respond to a variety of inputs. Now, this cartoon here is showing almost everything that happens to the brain. The panic, the anger, okay, the rage, psychological and otherwise there. But I picked out of this crowd of words there describing the situation, the brain. And the other thing I picked out was the heart. These were just the two organs that were placed together with all these emotional situations. And what does that tell us? It tells us that our body reacts, okay? And the heart in particular and the brain are related in very strong ways, which I'm going to show in subsequent slides. Okay, but generally the body will react. There is no part of the body that is, but I thought I will highlight here, heartbeat will change, blood pressure will change, your breathing will change, and so many things will happen, okay? I saw this picture and I loved it. And some people react to those situations by withdrawing, and we are reminded that an anxious heart weighs a man down. And so that we must have in mind as we continue to develop this. Okay? Now, the heart-mind connection. I think it's because of this connection that people often think that the mind is in the heart. And often when we describe the heart, the way we're feeling that. Okay? But the center of our feeling, the mind is actually in the brain. It's just the relationship of the brain with the heart that makes that description very, very powerful indeed, for which we think that heart is actually, or the mind is located in the heart. Okay? But there is a very strong relationship, and that strong relationship is between this particular part of the brain and our hearts. The centers that control the heart automatically, remember, it's an incredible organ that we cannot, voluntarily regulate. The regulation is automatic. It's beyond our consciousness. So the centers responsible are located here. Okay? I might have to get this cursor working properly so that you see what I'm talking about. Let me see if I can get one that is pointer that will show better. Okay, I think that will show better. All right, so this is where the center is, particularly the midbrain, okay, where the automatic control of the heart, dwells. From that point, you have all those effects, right? And upon this particular point, too, you have different parts of the body, of the brain, feeding onto this area. And because they're feeding onto this area, they have a way of, like the amygdala here, okay, is the point for which we react to dangers. It's responsible for the fear and for that quick decision, if ever you're able to make it, to either fight or fly. Very, very fundamental, okay? And the rest of it. Now, the brain speaks to the heart. I'm focusing on this brain speaking to the heart rather than the other way around, because the economics impacts, as I've shown earlier, the brain, and then the brain talks to the heart. Okay? And what does the brain say to the heart? That's important. There is this communication pathway I thought we should share. It's maybe clearer in the next slide, whereby you have from that midbrain area, the medulla, okay, you have lines of communication with the heart. All right. Within the heart, there are also intrinsic nerves, and that intrinsic nervous system and the non-intrinsic parts of the heart are regulated by the outputs from the medulla, going through the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. Okay? It may be clearer in this other one. So we're having the heart there, and again from that mid-brain area I told you earlier, automatically controls events of the heart. Okay, lots of feedback will go there from receptors that are located all over the cardiovascular system. Okay, they will feed that center. That center will then send the appropriate response, and most times that response will go to the heart. It's either going through the sympathetics or it's going through the parasympathetics. Okay, the sympathetic will be augmented, as you will see subsequently, by discharges that are endocrine related. Again, communication between the brain and the heart. Now, how can we actually demonstrate that? I thought this is a very important way to show this relationship. You see, on the left here and the red, you can see if you are in a state of frustration, with heart rate being recorded. That's a simple, I'm going to show how simple it can be to use your heart rate to track your states, okay, of response, where your heart is working or the body is responding to your situation. We'll demonstrate that. So simply using the heart rate, you can see the difference between when you are frustrated and when you are appreciated. Is that clear? So you can see how there is complete loss of rhythm here, okay? But there is smoothness and good rhythmicity here. So there is something. The feeling you have in your brain, if it's frustration, the output will impact the heart this way. If it's that of appreciation, happiness, that output will be more represented by this part of the picture. Okay? So there is that communication there. In fact, I made a presentation once in Doha where I used this particular slide to show that was to our kind of community over there, where heart rate again was being recorded simply, and that's what people can do. All right, and then something got under the guy's skin, and the change in heart rate was obvious. Okay, the heart was pounding. Okay, because of what was done to him. I've seen a bit of clips that you guys also see, I'm sure, where people are doing all sorts of things to post to social media. So this is what you see if it's in real terms, if it's a genuine situation, okay, where you're having a relaxed state and suddenly you have something that makes you bored, something that gets under your skin. This is kind of response you get unconsciously. You may not be recording it, but scientifically, this is what we do. We have to record to be able to demonstrate to people the impact of such things. Okay? But look at what happens even much better. After the wife had apologized and they seem to, think they have reconciled, the man hadn't completely, forgotten what happened. So the heart rate did not return for a while to the pre-challenge situation levels. Okay, so up to at this time, you wouldn't know what is happening. You're not conscious of this situation and the impact that may be having on your well-being. So that communication is there between the brain and the heart, and we can simply see it in this form. Okay, this is just showing that. For acute stress, there are immediate responses. There is nothing wrong with those responses. They are physiological responses. That's why how we're created. Okay, we made to have capacity to cope with short-term challenges of that type. So your heart rate will go up. Okay, we have other things that are also happening. It becomes non-physiological. It becomes of clinical consequence if you allow that situation to go chronic. Okay, so in those chronic situations, then you can then start to see all this is building up now to having myocardial ischemia. Okay, vessels, for instance, the heart is no more being fed, and this is something that is keeping you alive. So if the heart is not being fed, okay, then you start to have issues with it. Okay, you may have changes in the rhythm of the heart. Okay, you may have plaque formation. A lot of things may happen with time. Okay, if there are particularly changes to the immune system, in chronic situations, you may have thrombosis, which will worsen even the situation I've described earlier. Okay, that will impact even the heart the more. So there are those consequences. It's now a matter of how long you leave the stressful situation to persist without, looking for something to mitigate the situation. Yeah. So while what I've described earlier is mainly, about the nerve connections driving the heart because of what's happening in the brain, there are also humoral connections, okay, which I mentioned earlier. And you have the hypothalamus that is sitting just right above the area I showed you in the previous picture, and that can actually be affected by inputs from the limbic system, which is about our emotions and things like that, okay? And that will cause you to secrete irrelevant hormones. It has the hormone that releases that will impact the pituitary, which is still part of the lower side of the brain. And from the pituitary, then you have the ones that are going to the adrenals, that are just on the top of the kidneys there, okay? And to cause them to release, particularly adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. Okay, and now stress is known to trigger the release of these three things, which is why they are sometimes called stress hormones. Okay, and you can see the amygdala that I was talking about there, okay, feeding upon the hypothalamus to drive through the thing I was describing. So it can be homeostatic, where this is normal balance being maintained, or if it persists for long, then like when you're angry, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, okay, you feel rejected, you have fear, and this is sustained, then what that does, that it starts to develop into a pathological pathway instead of a physiological homeostatic pathway. Okay, so both the nervous connection or nerve connection and the humoral connections will tend to determine the fate of the heart depending on what your brain is telling you or what your brain is doing. Okay, there is this one where the cortisol levels, if they remain very high, can actually lead to left ventricular hypertrophy. That's a publication that I thought was relevant. Okay, this is particularly if you already have a pre-existing condition like essential hypertension. So it can actually make your situation worse. So very important to deal with it. Okay, and the British Heart Foundation, I decided to use them because I'll go to check them out and see what they're saying around this. They try to show there is that link you can have between lots of things that you do and what happens to your heart.